How's everybody doing? We are doing awesome today because we have Phil Chiarelli. How you doing?
Well, good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
Pretty good. So I know you first from we played in a little band together a
did.
couple years ago.
Yes, we did. Way out in Greenwood, a country act, as I recall.
Yeah.
Shadow Riders?
Shadow
was it?
Riders. Yeah.
Good
And-
times. Good
yeah.
times. It was
And-
fun.
Yeah, that was another one of those big bands that I've been in that
It
are the
was.
6 to 8 person.
And really, the first time that I had ever played with a steel guitar player, I'd played country music on and off all my life, but the first time I got to play with a real steel player, man, was that great.
Yeah.
Harold, as I recall.
Right, yeah, he was like 70 or
He
something. Right?
was.
Yeah.
He was 70. Yes, what was fun about Harold, too, is that on first Fridays he would be out at John Knox Village with gentlemen about his own age.
Oh, wow.
Doing old standards, and it was wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
It was great to go see him play.
There's nothing like hearing those old guys play the really old tunes.
And
That
play
is-
them exquisitely, you know, and just it was just wonderful to see.
Yeah, because I know when a lot of people play those like Tennessee waltzes and a lot of those really old tunes,
Yeah.
we can't, like people my age can't help to make it as exciting as possible because we just can't stand it.
I know.
You know,
Isn't that
but
the
then when
truth?
you hear the old guys do it, you know,
Yes.
they're doing it as
That's
authentically
right.
as you can hear it. Isn't that
That's
great?
right. Yeah, the old adage, simpler is always better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, less is more.
You're right, yeah, for sure. So for those who don't know you,
Yeah.
give 2-3 minutes on some of your
Sure.
music career,
Absolutely.
or whatever.
Absolutely. I started playing guitar probably when I was about 8 or 10 years old. My dad was in the military and was working with a gentleman who was a country guitar player down in, we were in Texas. And my dad took me to the club or bar that they were playing with, and I got to sit on the stage on top of the bass bin of the bass player. And from that moment on, it was like, yeah, that's what that's what I want to be when I grow up. So music, I played music, gosh, just forever. And of course at that age the Beatles were first coming out, so I got every music book and album and tried to learn all of those songs and played all through high school. We were stationed in the Memphis, Tennessee area, and so I got to play a lot of rhythm and blues and soul music with great players and horn bands and things. Went to college here in Kansas City at Rockhurst, and it was really my first foray into rock and roll. I had been playing country when I was in Texas and soul music in Tennessee, and got up here and and started playing more rock songs, and I had a little college band that played and that kind of stuff. And started to get in a little bit to the blues, listening to Eric Clapton and those heroes of mine. After college, still played, had various bands, one of which I was with for about 14 years. It was a country act called Poker Face, and we played throughout the Midwest here for quite a number of years, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then I took some time off of the band business, although I continued to play myself, and then got in a couple bands, one with my youngest son, Tyler, who's a great musician, professional musician, and that was a wonderful time to get to play with him.
Oh, sure.
And then after that, I was kind of on a hiatus for a while, and Tyler suggested that I start going to some jams, which I had never done. I was somewhat reluctant to do because, you know, you never really know how you just stack up and you know, that kind of thing. So I did go, and dear friend of mine, Scotty Yates, dear friend of Tyler's too, was very encouraging and helpful, and I got into playing those, and actually at that point on, my whole guitar vocabulary and style and everything just took leaps and bounds because I was in playing with folks that clearly were better than I was, and still do. A lot of people a lot better than I am, and got to learn things and have a great experience with it. So right now I do play with a band called Blue Plate Special. We are a rock blues band, I guess is what you would call it. Into a lot of things like Allman Brothers and Government Mule and just some really fun stuff. And play with some great players here in town. Jimmy Cavanaugh's our drummer, and Willie Newell's our keyboard player, and one of my dearest friends in the world, Gary Doc Holub, is our bass player, and we're just having a good time at it. And that and the jams kind kind of fill that need, I guess is what I should
Sure,
say, for that musical fix
Yeah, sure.
that we all need.
They're good for,
Yeah, that's for sure.
So talk
Yeah.
about that a second.
Yeah.
When we haven't really talked about this on the show yet, about what. Talk a little bit more about why you were reluctant to go to the jams.
Yeah, I think a lot of times we hear about jams and we see them on Facebook or we hear them talk about it, and one is led to believe that it's the best of the best, the most elite that go to these, and that, boy, you've really got to be a good player to be invited. And, you don't want to be embarrassed and all of this kind of stuff, and so many young players don't go. Heck, I wasn't a young player. I was in my 50s at the time and had a lot of experience and was confident in my playing, but it was like, man, I don't want to go there and be embarrassed.
Right.
I don't want to be embarrassed, and if I go once and I'm embarrassed, then if I show up again, they'll go, oh, there's that guy. That kind of thing.
Don't be that guy.
Yeah, don't be that guy. But again, with the help of Scotty and some encouragement of some other people, I did get up and play, and very quickly I found, in my case, that, well, I could do this. I could keep up with this. This is fine. Were there better players? Of course there were better players. But that was great for me because I learned from that. And one of the neat things about most, if not all, of the jams I've been to here is that those players are more than happy to share with you and to show you things that you want to learn, or how did you do that lick, or what was that chord progression that you did. And if you are willing to take that first step in there, once you realize that there are people there who are very nurturing and very caring and know why you're there and have been in the same place that you've been in, you become very comfortable. And so that's why I was reluctant, but why, having gone, it has helped my playing immensely. Aside from the wonderful people that you meet, and band members, potential band members, and all of that kind of thing, just good people.
Yeah, and we talked about this with Steve and Paul Greenlease and the people that I've had on. Is that, I mean, I think the best thing about jams is the amount of people you get to meet.
Yes,
and that's the greatest thing.
Absolutely.
And that's really good about it. I thought that was so interesting when you're talking about your mentality before you get to the jam, going like, man, I hope I stack up. I hope I this
That's
and
right.
that.
That's right.
And that, what I'm most annoyed at in music right now is cluelessness. On a lot of different fronts.
Yes.
And one of the cluelessness that I think a lot of jazz players have is that they are always well aware of the, and this is bad that we make this hierarchy, that the better players than me, than the younger, and it's bad that we do that, but it's a little bit inevitable, I think. And what I'm always annoyed at with the cluelessness is when guys get up there and they have no clue about that hierarchy. They have absolutely no idea, so they don't come in with that attitude of because they think they're hot stuff.
They do, and you run into that sometimes. And I am a great fan of Robin Ford, and although Robin has some wonderful tutorial things on guitar playing on YouTube, he also has some wonderful teaching moments where he's just talking to people about things. And he talks about those situations, and he talks about the guy that comes in and it's all about him. The guy that comes in and goes, aren't you glad I'm here? Let me lead you to the promised land. And who doesn't realize that, and I'll speak for myself, this is just my opinion about it, who doesn't realize that it's about the music. It's about what you put out as an individual and an ensemble, and how you serve the music that you're playing. The music doesn't serve you. The other guys on the bandstand in the jam aren't there to serve you. You're all there collectively to support each other when it's the other person's time to shine. And as Robin says, if you can't get that, if it's all about you, go home. We don't have room for you here. This is for people who enjoy playing for the pure enjoyment of it, who go there to learn, who go there to interact with friends, to hear great stuff from great players. And that person who is there that wants all the attention on them is a bummer. I mean, it kind of drags everything down. You see that with guitar players who don't understand the difference between a volume level for leads and a volume level for rhythm.
And that's the cluelessness. That's another
Absolutely.
example of a
It's
cluelessness.
a cluelessness thing. And you know, and these are little things that you learn as you go through, but the clueless guitar player who's there with another guitarist or a keyboardist who does not have an awareness of the types of rhythms that are being played or where chords are being played in what version or inversions are being played, and just routinely just plays up and down the neck in anything they want to do, and you're constantly going, okay, where are you now? And that kind of thing. And you know, find a part and play the part in the song to support the song and the other folks around you. And when it's your turn to shine, we'll help you shine. We'll get out of your way and help you shine. But then it's your job to help others.
That's how it's supposed to be.
That's how it's supposed to be. And the great jams. One of the things I love about playing with you, whether it was in the Shadow Riders or at the jams, is you know when to play and when not to play. And as important, what to play and what not to play. And in terms of the cluelessness that you're talking
Thanks for saying
about,
that. Yeah.
oh, man, you're fabulous. And in terms of the cluelessness, all of it comes back to one very simple thing. You have to learn to listen. You have to learn to listen to what's going on around you, and to learn to listen, you have to let go a little bit of that. I'm here and I'm up here.
Right.
You have to give yourself into the songs and to whatnot to find your proper place, so the audience out there hears something beautiful and wonderful. So many times, I know you've seen this too. You have that guy come in, and
Please mention names.
No, I won't do that.
Out you.
That guy will come in and virtually take over the stage.
Yeah.
In 15 minutes into it, people are talking to each other or wandering outside for a cigarette or leaving because now it's become a performance in a show. And that's not what jams are supposed to be about. You know, everybody should have an opportunity to shine and to learn.
Yeah, I like what you said there, because it's hard to know when I think sometimes when I'm sure a lot of people have come up to you over the years and go like, how do you guys just get up there with each other and just you don't even know what's going on, and you just deal with it. And
I know.
And one of my responses to that is that obviously some of the songs we all know them,
Sure.
so we can just jump up there because we already know the song.
That's right.
But the other part is the idea that a lot of times we don't have to choose the entire world to improv right now, like every single note in history, because you just mentioned something, how he just played something over there, which is now basically sort of telling me what I'm going to play.
Exactly.
Right? You were saying the listening,
right.
where
The
he's taken over this part of the song, and so therefore now that tells me that I need to play here, or I need to play up a register, or whatever the thing is.
Or his rhythm pattern is such that the only thing I can bring to the song is a downbeat on 4.
Yeah.
And that's my contribution to the song. I don't need to play over him or embellish what he's doing. I need to find the place.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it was Miles Davis that said sometimes the most important notes are the notes that aren't played.
Yeah, yeah.
The spaces that are left.
Yeah.
And I think that comes from listening, and that comes from wanting to make the song the best it can be.
Yeah.
Not wanting the audience to go, oh, listen to that. Oh, listen to that. Listen to that guy. No, listen to the song.
Right.
Listen enjoy what these wonderful players are contributing and how they each make it the best that it can be in that situation.
So before we get off of
Yeah.
open jams,
Yeah.
tell me a little bit of things that maybe not even musically, but whatever you'd want to say on this of things that maybe would be good advice for jammers in general.
Sure. First of all, I would say, although it's contrary to one's nature, don't be afraid to come in. Don't be afraid. We will welcome you with open arms as long as you're not that guy.
Yeah. I noticed that when I got into town, even with my kind of weird instrument coming over to rock jams and blues jams, I mean, they're like, dude,
come up,
come,
do it.
yeah. They're like, yes, we have dumb guitar players all
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
We want your violin
Exactly.
or
That's
your
exactly
whatever.
right.
You know.
Yeah. Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. 99% of the people that'll play there will be more than happy, not only to share their knowledge, share their gear with you. If you don't feel comfortable in bringing your own guitar and stuff, use mine. I'd be happy to let you use it. You know, ask questions. What's that pedal do? What's that amp? How do you set that up?
What's the name of that song you just played?
What's the name of that song that just played? What does it mean when he says 1, 4, 5? I don't know what that means. Until you learn it, you don't know what it means, and you won't learn it unless you put yourself in the situation to be open to learn. We've had, and I'm delighted to have seen this happen, many young players come in who were beginners, or maybe advanced beginners at best, who after coming to the jam for 3 or 4 or 5 months, and sitting in, and we throw them under the bus because they are reluctant to, and they go, take it, you know, and they just do it, and they become very, very good players, and that's very satisfying. That's very satisfying to be able to help another musician. I think too many times we forget we were that kid, and there was somebody there holding our hand, and it's only right that we help the next one.
Because it's weird. It's a weird dichotomy because we know that we want to make everybody sound good, but we know that part of, and this happens at the jazz jams a lot, and there where we know that we do need to hold their hand a little bit the first couple times, but we also know eventually you need to just, throw them off the cliff and see if they fly,
exactly.
and so
You
that's a
have to
weird
do it.
moment where how do you do that perfectly, it's
That's
tough.
Right. And during the break, maybe you sit down with them and go, hey, that was great, let me make some suggestions for you to think about. It's a wonderful give and take.
I like how you worded that too, and that's something that I kind of get on my opinion about some of the band leaders of the jams is that when is it appropriate to say stuff like that, and how do you say it to them? Because there's a lot, especially in the classical world, it's not like this because everybody's gone through 400 violin lessons, so they're used to taking criticism. But a lot of these non-classical players are not used to taking criticism, and so like sometimes no matter how you say it, they're going to take it bad just because it's their personality. But
what I've tried to do is a lot of times let that person open up the conversation. I really liked what you played, or that was a lick from so and so. Yeah, it was, and realize where that other person's coming from, and realize that what they really want to know is how did you do that, or what did you know, and recognize that for what it is, and say, hey, let me show you that, let me show you how that worked. And it may not be the first time you talk to them, but maybe the next time they'll say, well, what'd you think of that I did? Well, there's some good parts. You might want to think about how this is built, and here's some things to work on or think about. And I've always found that approach has been a good one, rather than, well, you dumb kid, go home and practice. I mean, he's been doing that. He does real world stuff.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I'm always fascinated as a teacher about how you come at somebody like that. And my mom always talks about the when, and you just mentioned
Yeah.
kind of the when. Maybe
The
the
when.
first conversation is not the time.
Not the time.
And you know, you see, because a lot of these guys, we see them
Oh, yeah.
within 3 months. We'll see them at least 3 times.
Yeah,
you know, and
exactly.
so the time
That's exactly
after
right.
a while, if you can have a decent music memory, which we all kind of do, we remember who plays what and how
Oh,
good
yeah,
and like
exactly.
and
Exactly.
and so yeah, I like that a lot.
Yeah. I find that to be the most satisfying part of jams, is to be able to help somebody like so many have helped me to pass that along and watch those people blossom and come off with a smile on their face, knowing that I belong here.
You're right.
I can do this. I can do this.
I've been getting better, and they can feel it.
and
You
they
know,
can feel
I
it,
was
and
much
they
more
know it.
comfortable this
That's
this
right.
night.
That's
and
exactly
as
right.
opposed to,
That's exactly right.
That's cool.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about bands now.
Yeah.
What was a thing in a band that was really great, like about the players or about the music choice or however you
Sure.
want to answer that?
Generally,
Past band.
the greatest part about a good band is that people have the same goals and direction. It has not a lot to do with your playing ability, because you can always improve that. You can always get better, and that kind of thing. It's are they a good person to be around? Do they take criticism or suggestions in a positive way? Do you as a band have the same goals? Do you want to play the same music? You know, the reality of the situation is this, though. Those of us that play around Kansas City for the most part in Blue Plate Special or Past Tense or Shadow Riders or whatever, this is a hobby. We're hobbyists, all right? We're not professionals in the sense that our next meal or our house payment relies on whether or not we play or not. We're hobbyists. We go out and we play. Some hobbyists are great players. They can make their living at it. Some hobbyists aren't. It's what they choose to do with what they do, right? So, but the reality is that the bands that I'm in, they're hobbyists. All of them are. Nobody makes their living at it. I don't want to be surrounded by a bunch of guys who don't appreciate music the way I do, who don't really want to play the kind of music that I want to play. It's supposed to be fun. You're supposed to have a good time, which makes you a better band, makes you a closer group, right? Professionals who make their living at it, it's not like that. It's not like that. We are here to do a job. I play my show, I do my job the best we can, and we rehearse, and then, you know, it's the job. So being in a band, the thing that I would suggest people look for is like-minded people. Like-minded people. Are they friend? Would you be their friend if you weren't in a band with them? In our situations, do you like the same kind of music? Do you have the same goals? Do you want to play the same places? Big deal. Money. Money. Is money important to you? Isn't it? Does somebody need to be this hobbyist part-time?
That's part of the goals, right?
That's part of the goals and objectives. That's right. It's something that needs to be talked about. Are you willing to play for free? No, I won't play for less than X amount of dollars. Okay, let's come to an agreement on these things and all of that kind of stuff like that. We all do this for different reasons, and the guys who are the most successful, I think, are those who have in common the most number of reasons, if you understand what I'm saying, to make it work, you know. And that's what I find, that's what I enjoy about Blue Plate Special. We're four different people, but when it comes to playing music and how we want to do it and what it means to us, we're on the same page. We're going the same direction. Not everybody is going to like what we play. But okay, that's fine. You know, we're not a live jukebox. We never intend to be. We want to enjoy what we're doing, and hopefully the audience can feed off our enjoyment about what we're doing. And we have a good time at what we do. We have a good time at what we're doing. Do we always agree? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But there are ways that you can learn to disagree without walking out of the room going, I don't want to play with that guy anymore, or that kind of thing. You know? Compromise. Oh my God. anytime you have a group of more than one person, you need to learn to compromise to reach your goals and everybody's. And too many people sometimes don't understand that about bands. They're groups of people, you know.
Right.
And so you got to be able to work that way.
A couple things you said that's interesting with
Yeah.
the compromise stuff
Mm-hmm.
is the idea that I always find it funny when you have because there's some deal breakers.
Sure.
You know, when you're in a band, you know,
Yeah.
a guy is,
Yeah.
you know, an example is a guy is drunk, running all over the room, and you know that might be like
Sure.
a deal breaker. You know,
Sure.
but
Absolutely.
playing one song that you don't like out of your 40-song set, is that a deal breaker? Probably not. It doesn't. It shouldn't be. You know. Yeah.
Remember we were talking about that guy
Mhm.
earlier? For that guy, that could be a deal breaker.
Yeah.
Okay, for that guy, that could be a deal
Right.
breaker because it's not his song. He doesn't particularly like it. He may not play it well. It may be a
Right.
style he doesn't like. So he doesn't want to be embarrassed or whatever. So
Yeah.
no, if you guys play that song, I'm not going to do that. In our band, if you look at our, I don't know, 60, 70 song list that we go
Mhm.
through, I can name 5 or 6 or 7 songs if it was up to me.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so can each one of those
Sure,
guys.
yeah.
And so what we tend to do when we do songs is it's like, okay, we need songs. Everybody bring in 2 songs that you want to do.
Right.
And we have committed to each other that first assuming that that is a song that we can do
Right.
or do in a way in our own style and be good, we say, okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
And we find a way to make it our own.
Mm-hmm.
But enough of the song that whoever brought it in is happy with it.
Right.
That's part of the compromise. That's part of
Right.
being part of a group
Yeah.
and supporting each other.
I love the commitment word that you talked about with everybody has that commitment that I'm going to be flexible
Yes,
at least
yes,
with at least
yes.
with the songs,
Yeah,
you know, that
yeah.
I'm gonna emotionally give this a
I am,
shot and
I am,
not,
that's
you know,
right.
just
I'm-
be pissed. You
I'm
know,
going
about
to
it,
bring
yeah.
the best I can bring to your song, even though I
Right.
hate it,
Yeah.
because I'm committed to you guys to make this the best that I
Right.
can be. And I may not like that song, but you
And
do.
the reciprocal
And
that
the
you know that the other
I
person's
can
gonna do the
count
same
on
for
them
yours.
to do
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I can count on them to do
Yeah.
the same thing. And that's what makes it fun in the
Yeah.
end. That's what makes it rewarding
Oh, sure.
in the end. You know,
And I also love Wynton Marsalis always called it a negotiation. You know,
Mhm.
like in a jam is the best example
Yes,
of that. You're
that's
all up
right.
there, and you talked about your sort of agendas. Is what you're.
yes,
You know,
yes,
we all have different
exactly.
things
Why
we're
are you
trying
up
to.
there? Why are you there?
Yeah, and
right.
we already talked about the maybe bad way to have your agenda, where you're
Sure.
up there for yourself.
Yeah,
And like, and
exactly.
I love that because that's what being in a band is. It's democracy. You
It
know,
is. It's democracy and
well, it's not always a democracy. I take that
Mhm.
back because some bands are a dictatorship, which
Well,
is
sure.
fine and they work great. Yeah,
and those tend to be the professionals
Yes.
who make their living at it.
yeah,
You know, you got a manager, you've got an agent, you've got a promoter, you've got whatever. You have created a product that your audience wants to hear exactly that way
Yeah.
every time they see you.
Mhm.
This isn't about compromise. This isn't
Yeah,
about
yeah.
do you like the song or don't you. You are there to do a job
Mhm.
to present a product to an audience who is buying that product.
Right.
So you have a vested interest in making sure they're happy, and what they want
Mhm.
is to hear that exactly like they hear it on the radio or
Mhm.
on stereo. You mentioned my son, and he is fortunate enough to be a lead guitar player and a band leader in a very prominent country duo act in the country. And if you sit down and talk to him about it, you will hear him say that their job is to go out every night and produce what that couple in that front row has heard as their song, or the guy in the back can relate to the truck song, or the guy over here can, or the guy and gal are going to do this. And they go to those concerts with an expectation of seeing that group play exactly what they envision and have heard them play, that they made their own, right? So they can't go out there and improvise a 15-minute solo in a 3-minute 45-second radio song. The crowd would go, what's that? You know, There are strict parameters that need to be followed in order to produce the product that the consumer is looking for.
Yeah.
Completely different world. Completely different world than what we're talking about here, or even the bands that play in the clubs around town. It is a totally different world with totally different requirements and totally different levels of expectation. It's all different. It's nowhere close to what we're talking
Because
about.
you also said, like, when you do have that dictator in your band, and then you have the basically hired gun
That's right.
sidemen
That's
situation,
exactly right.
you're still the negotiation.
Sure.
You're going like, you give me money and then I do whatever you say.
That's exactly
you know?
right.
So it's still that same parameter.
And
it's
here's
just different.
the kicker. If you don't want to do the job that I'm paying you to do, I've got the names of 15 guys that could show
Chop
up
'em,
here
yeah.
tomorrow
Yeah.
and take your place, and those people out in that crowd would never know the difference.
Yeah.
And so it's about me stuff lasts about a nanosecond in that environment. In that environment, you're there to do a job. You're there to do it this particular way. You're hired to do that job that way. You may be the best drummer, the best guitar player, the best bass player, the most wonderful improviser in the world, but that's not what we're hiring you to do. So don't make it about you.
Yeah.
Those guys at that kind of level, you'll often hear them talk about concerns about, am I losing my creativity or that kind of thing like that, because I'm basically doing the same thing all the time. And the good ones, and fortunately I'm very proud to say my son is one of those, does studio work and demo stuff, so his creative process is fulfilled with that. And so he's got the best of both worlds, and he is blessed with wonderful talent and people's skills, and knows how to do his profession to the point where he is very highly respected in that community. I think too often, this is my bias coming out, I think too often that we at this level, hobbyists, think we're at that level. And want people to think we're at that level. And
Don't be reading my mind.
I find it used to make me mad, but it doesn't anymore. I understand. As we say, we all do this for different reasons, and we all have different views of ourselves. And many people feel for whatever reasons, that but for the grace of God, they would be that person on that national stage or TV show or concert in Australia or whatever the case may be. But they're not. But they're here in Kansas City, and by God, and I sometimes sit back and I go, bless your heart for thinking that, but it's a different world at that level. It's an entirely different world. Many of the guys in town that are at the jams have been close to that mountaintop.
Yeah.
They know what that experience is. And those are the guys who understand and how to integrate. They understand what their role is. They understand when to be up front and when not to be up front. They give back. It's that guy who, for whatever reason, doesn't see himself that way.
Yeah.
Or whatever. That tends to create issues sometimes.
Yeah, a couple of things you said I thought were interesting. The one I heard, it was a bass player in an old band, and he played with like Travis Tritt or something. He played with a bass with a decent size act, and he was talking about the manager was trying to tell him that they literally put X's on the stage and like, you don't move.
That's right.
And
exactly
I thought that blew my mind. He's like, and I'm like, okay. So I was thinking, he's like, why would the guy ask him to do this? Is because we don't care about you. Was his argument. We care about the front man.
That's
right. And if you move around, you're taking away from the
real life story like that. There was a group. In fact, Tyler played drums with this particular. It's not the group he's with now. It was some number of years ago. It was a duo, and a good friend of his was their lead guitar player, and that young man was very flamboyant. I mean, just
Right.
the look and everything like that. And when he would play his leads and stuff, he'd come up to the front of the stage or whatnot. Management pulled him aside and suggested that you need to downplay because you're taking the focus away
Yeah.
from the two front guys where we need it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're exactly right. You're exactly
Yeah.
right. Now, fortunately, with the group that my son is with, his role, their entire band is different than that because their players move all the time and they are encouraged to make it a big
Right,
show. They're
yeah.
not just sitting there,
Yeah.
stuff that kind of deal. But there are other groups that, oh yeah, you don't move, you don't do nothing. You
Yeah,
take
yeah.
take the focus off the front person or group.
The Garth Brooks or
The
whoever
Garth
it is.
Brookses
Yeah,
and
yeah,
all of those
yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
And you stay back behind this line and you never go anywhere. And but yeah, that happens.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually happens.
And then another thing he said that was really interesting is about the goals. And my parents, who've been married a very long time, actually
Sure.
talk about this, where they are very different people, like
Yeah.
personality-wise.
Yeah.
But they said the reason why this has worked is because their goals are the same, even as a
Exactly.
marriage. And
That's right.
and that that
That's right.
like if your band, you can feel it when, like you were saying, you can feel it when the band's goals are the same.
That's right. You
And
can feel it.
everything is
Mhm.
so easy because
is.
everybody's you don't have to argue about things because everybody's like sort of already in agreement.
Yes.
You know, it's like
yes.
before you even ask the question
That's
that people
right.
are going to be down with
That's
that.
right.
You know.
And if you played around enough and know the guys in the community, you know the guys that you tend to gravitate to who think the same way and
Right.
want to go in the same direction, and and that's fine. We need all of those personalities. We need all those different things to create the different musics and the different types of things that we hear. But how many times have you heard a great band lasted a month? And why they were great players? Well, it's not about playing.
It has
great.
nothing to
It has
do with
nothing
that,
to
yeah.
do with how great
Yeah.
you play. And some of the most successful bands that have been around, probably this city too, probably aren't the greatest players in the world, but the crowd loves them because they love what they're doing and they're fun and all of that kind of stuff like that. So.
Yeah, so a couple more here
Yeah,
for you.
sure.
We haven't talked a lot about club owners on this.
Sure.
On this,
Yeah.
I remember having a general, and I won't out you, but having
No,
a
that's
general discussion in Shadow Riders about club owners
Yeah.
and kind of deciding sort of who's going to do that work and et cetera.
That's
I
right.
remember us kind of as
Yeah,
a band
yeah.
talking about that. And
Yeah.
what do you think about club owners?
I think,
Just kidding.
okay, I
Yeah,
think to
or-
answer that question,
yeah.
I need to start about talking about the musical environment and how it's changed. When I was in college and right out of college playing in the city area, when you wanted to go out and listen to a band, very rarely did you say, I want to go hear this band or this band or this band. You had clubs in the city that were known to have great bands no matter what
And
it was.
no
At
matter
any
what
particular-
night it
no matter
was,
what night
yeah.
it was.
Mhm.
You would go hear that, okay?
Yeah.
Well, and of course that was great for the club, right?
Yeah.
That was great for the club because,
They had a built-in crowd.
they had a built-in crowd. Doesn't exist anymore. It does not exist anymore. Although there are clubs in town that consistently have good entertainment, I'm not going to say that. Because of the club's reputation,
Yes.
because of the money that they're willing to pay, and that kind of thing. But
So like BBs would be one,
Sure,
and
BBs
Knuckleheads would
absolutely,
be another.
two
The
of the top ones. The
Phoenix,
Phoenix.
Green Lady Lounge.
Absolutely.
There's a handful.
There's a
yeah.
handful of clubs where you just
Yeah.
say the name and you go, I don't care.
I don't care who's playing.
They're
'cause
going to
it's
be
good.
good. We
gonna-
know they're going to be
Blue Room,
good.
right,
Exactly.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
precisely
Yeah.
right. Okay. But then you have all of the other places in town, right? Now, one of the things, if we take off our musician hats and set them over here and simply look at it as an outsider, you go, well, we have an economic situation here. We have a club owner who is doing their best to make a living. All right. They want their locals to come in. They would like their business to grow and that kind of thing. They have except for band night, they have fixed costs and they have variable costs, and they need enough clients to come in there to pay and buy enough, what have you, to cover those. Well, now they want to hire a band. And all of a sudden their costs have now gone up the amount that they've negotiated with the band.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to cover that is to have more people come in, or if the people come in can cover it, their profit margin goes down. All right. Well, then you have musicians on the other side who want to play out. There are, and I have no idea, but I know it's more than the fingers on my hands, enough bands in Kansas City.
There's a lot of bands.
There are a lot of bands in
players,
Kansas
yeah.
City. And again, this is not a statement about ability or how good the band is. It has
Mhm.
nothing to do with that.
Mhm.
Because, and I will say this and maybe get some flack from this, but,
Screw those guys.
but
Just kidding.
if I'm a club owner, I am more concerned about how many spending patrons
Yeah.
you're going to put in my seats than how good you are.
Yeah.
If you guys are a four-piece group that's advanced beginners that don't know nothing, but you bring 100 people in who yell and scream because
Every
that-
single time.
every
you're hiring
single
them,
time,
hiring them. Yep.
I will hire them every weekend.
Yeah.
And the good band out there who isn't from my part of the city, whose fans are not going to travel 30 miles down, or who even doesn't have a big fan base.
Right.
Bless your hearts, you're great players, but it costs me money when you come down here.
What are you doing for me?
What
yeah.
are you going to do for me?
Mhm.
So I understand it, okay? I understand it. I really do. I used to see a lot of things on Facebook, and because I dropped out of Facebook because of these things,
Mhm.
and about how these bands would get in arguments with each other because they're going, well, you undercut my price. You know, I told them $350, you went in there for $250, and they hired you instead of me, and I'm going, guys, this is a business. This is an economic business. You know, first of all, this idea that we as hobbyists should get a certain level of payment for our services, that's in our mind.
Mhm.
All right, that's in our mind. What we are worth is what we produce. What we are worth is what that bar owner sees our value as with respect to putting people in the seats to make them make a living.
Mhm.
All right, that's what your band is worth.
Right.
And
Not how good you play.
not how good you play,
Yeah.
not how great your equipment is, not what a great sound you have or how good looking you are,
Mhm.
because those things don't produce income for club owners. All right.
Mhm.
Now, on the musician's point of view, I think if there's one thing that does bother me at times about club owners is the expectation that the bands become the advertising agency for the club.
Mhm.
All right. Invariably, we will go in and give our promo pack or visit, and one of the first questions is, do you have a Facebook page?
Right.
How many followers do you have?
How many people are you gonna bring?
How many
right?
people are you going to bring?
Yeah.
And I understand that question.
Yeah.
I get it. But then if you ask the owner, what are you going to do to advertise our presence here, to bring people in?
Well, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they get
well,
all,
we have
you know, yeah.
we put it on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's one.
That's one.
So
And we have a
when does this happen?
yeah, we have a poster on the front door.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, in both cases, the potential patron either has to come to your place or look on your Facebook page
Mhm.
to find out who's coming. Which in both of those translate into your regulars.
Right.
Okay, it's your regulars that are going to do that. So what are you as a club owner going to do to spread the word to get more people to come to your club by promoting the music that you have and that kind of thing? It's definitely a two-way street. It's definitely, if there could be a way for those in the musical community and those in the club owner community to sit down and go, we both can win here.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay, we both can win. Why don't we create a joint websites? Why don't we, you know, if every band will take $25 less so we can put advertisements on the radio, something something where both sides compromise for the good of everyone. And even band to band, this idea of competition, I'm competing, I gotta work more than you do. You know, why is that necessary? You know, we're not making our living at this. You know, and there's certainly enough places in town, I would think, that people could play it. So one of the things in the community where my son lives, he was told early on when he was down there, it's a tremendous, he works out in Nashville, and when he was first down there, he had mentors that took him under their wing, and he started talking to them. And you know what they said to him? They said, we don't care, there's more than enough work. If I can help you, you're going to help me. And it was like, no, come on down, you know, come on, let me show you the ropes. Let me recommend you. You recommend. It's a community where while it might be hard to be successful on terms of record sales and stuff like that, you can be successful in the community with respect to who you know and how you get along with people and all of that, and be a member of that community, because people see the value in eliminating that kind of competition. You know, let the award shows deal with that, or let the record companies deal with that. Let us as musicians treat each other like we would want to be treated and help each other out. And I would like to think that maybe at some point, if there are enough of us that stop being that guy, that we could.
You keep coming back to that guy.
that guy. That come back for the, come back.
I love talking about this because I was kind of more a sideman up until I ran my own rock band, and that was my first chance at getting on the owner's side of at least understanding where they're coming from. Yeah. Because I think as musicians, we definitely are getting a really bad rut of seeing only our side, and we don't see what you were just talking about their bottom line and that kind of stuff. And like, isn't it? I see both sides now. I don't know. I probably for a while actually switched over to more of the club owner side of making it, not not against is a stupid word, but
it's an understanding. It's coming to understand both sides and respect both sides.
And I was thinking, especially with the I always make this joke that Jon Stewart always talks about, like, the Republicans got together to Sizzler and decided that we're not going to do anything Obama wants. And then, so I always joke about the club owners, what steakhouse did they all come to decide that these bands are bringing our crowd from now on? And that's a joke, obviously, but
the thing
isn't it in the band's best interest to do some promoting too? Because we always bitch about them. The owner isn't doing anything, but
certainly
isn't that good for us if we do some promotion for ourselves?
On our Facebook page, get email lists when you go out. Put cards on the table. Do something to promote your product. Because ultimately, that's what you're bringing to that club owner, a product that they can put on their stage or what have you, to sell to the people who are actually paying your way to play there. We're not doing club owners favors by showing up to play. All right. That's not enough. The club owners aren't doing us favors by having a place to play. They're letting us come in there, and by God, they're actually giving us money to do it. Think about it for a second.
Yes.
Really? Think about this for a minute.
We come in and take their money.
And we take their money.
Yeah.
And even if it's only $50 a guy or $80 or $100 a guy, you as a band member are the winner here, and it's the club owner that's got to figure out how to come up with that money. And they're hoping that you bring enough people in there to help them pay you.
Right.
All right? And if basically you go, it's not my responsibility. I hear this a lot. It's their responsibility to get people there. It's my responsibility to keep them.
Come do a job. Yeah. And you've heard a lot of people say that quote before.
To a certain extent, that might be fine in the old days. But in these days, where the competition is great, where the club owners are clearly struggle. I mean, clearly they do. If you've ever been in some of these establishments on weeknights or something like that, you know,
They got 6 people in that
they
place.
got 6 people and they're waiting for the weekend to be able to help them make payroll or whatever. I get it.
Right.
And I have a great amount of respect for people who are trying to live their dream. But we as musicians, I think, need to understand and respect that. They have no obligation to help us live ours.
Yeah.
But if we don't help them live theirs, we've got no place to play.
Yeah.
So we need to become more cognizant of that and realize that to have these places continue to exist, we need to become part of the mechanism along with them to recreate a musical scene that is good for everybody, and stop competing with each other and complaining about 250 versus 350 or that kind of thing and that kind of thing. You know, it's
And one last thing on this, you
sure.
did say that something interesting about the mentality that we have to ourselves, because I know this happens in politics a lot, where you say something and then people get really defensive about something you said.
Yeah.
You said something that even made me like about us being actual hobbyists.
Yeah.
And I thought that was interesting that you said that, because even myself goes like, well, I'm not a hobbyist. I play all the time.
You're not.
Da.
Music is
But
your profession.
Well, it is,
Okay.
but I'm also a teacher. And so the performing side is, I am a hobbyist in the sense that I don't make every one of my livings. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is that is lessening the idea of how important you are.
Yeah.
Is instead of like, I'm the shit, right?
Yeah,
I'm, you know,
exactly.
And
Exactly.
well, actually we're, you know, when you want to, and the last thing I want to talk about is your son.
Yeah.
When you have a different perspective of kind of the level that he's at,
Yeah, exactly.
and then, you know, at least bigness wise,
Right.
you're looking down at all of us
Right.
peons, and you have a different perspective, because,
Well,
you know.
let me make sure that you and the watchers understand when I use the word hobbyist versus professional. Again, has nothing to do with skill level.
Right.
Has nothing to do with skill level.
Right.
Some of the finest players I know in this world I consider hobbyists, because the professional musician is in the music business as a profession. They earn their living doing it. Being it a teacher, a part-time player, what, it doesn't matter. You spend your life in your livelihood in the music industry. If you don't have students or a gig, you don't eat.
Yeah.
You don't pay the rent. I, as a hobbyist, if I get $50 or $60, $100 a weekend to go play a gig, I'm going to buy a new guitar pedal.
Right.
I'm not going to pay rent with it.
Yeah.
That's the distinction that I make.
That's a good point.
That's the distinction that I make. Has nothing to do with your talent level. Has nothing to do with the number of years that you've done it. Has nothing to do if that's the only thing you do now. If like me,
Or how much you love it.
or how much you love
It
it.
doesn't. It's about your.
Like me, I'm retired and I have a wonderful annuity from my former employer, but I play music and get paid for it. I'm still a hobbyist, all right, because my livelihood and my ability to live at a certain level isn't dependent on whether I play this weekend or not. And that's the distinction that I make.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's the distinction that I make. Hobbyist versus a professional. There are some terrible professionals. How they make a living, I don't know. But there are some terrible players that are professionals by that
really
definition.
Yeah. And it's getting paid to play is really the technical definition.
term.
Of it.
That's
and
right.
that could be a lot of people,
that's
like
right.
you just said.
That's
you know,
right.
that's
And a lot of people will go, well, you're not taking into account attitude, just money. Well, no, yeah, but we're talking about the difference between a person who makes their living doing this and a person that doesn't. You can be a hobbyist and handle yourself as a true professional in terms of the way that you approach things. It has nothing to do with that.
Right.
As it has nothing to do with your skill level by the terms that I'm using.
Yeah, I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
So I got 2 more for you.
Yeah.
One, you've already mentioned him a lot, but I wanted you to talk a little bit more about what your son is doing.
Yeah.
In Nashville.
My son Tyler Chiarelli is the lead guitar player and band leader for the country duo Florida Georgia Line.
That's cool.
And
Kind of rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
yeah, it kind of rolls off the tongue a little bit. Didn't always start that way though. And if you want to see a blueprint for making it in this business, you should study Tyler. Tyler started playing drums when he was 5 or 6 years old. Went all through high school on drums and college scholarship, and he was a Class A fabulous drummer in all genres. In high school or in college, he decided he wanted to take up guitar, so he's self-taught. Wouldn't let me show him anything, that guy, which is fine. I mean, he taught himself. And Tyler devoted himself to talk about a professional from the time that he was young. His life was devoted to music. Every dime he made was from music, whether it be working in a music store, whether it be playing gigs around the countryside or out of state or whatnot. And Tyler reached a point where it was either go do what you want to do or get a real job. And I'll never forget sitting in our driveway having a wonderful conversation about that. Not, you need to get a real job, but you know, let's talk about where you are in this career. And basically where Tyler was playing with a wonderful group of guys who were a very, very good band, but they were a bar band. Yeah. Just like all of us, they were a bar band. They played out of town and whatnot, and somebody owned a tour bus, and they rode around in a tour bus, but they're a bar band. And we talked about that and said, you know, you guys are excellent. You guys are you know, people love to come see you play, but that's the reality of it. And you, if you want to go to the next level, you're going to have to be ready to deal with the rejection and everything that's going to come with trying your hand at a true professional career in music. Well, Tyler began his trek by going down to Nashville about twice a month and hanging out in the clubs where his idols played. He is a tremendous fan, and he's proud to say now a friend of a gentleman by the name of Tom Bukovac, who's one of the A-list fabulous guitar players in Nashville, and a number of other people that he has met along the way, who took him under their wing to teach him not about gear, not about style, but his questions to them were, why do people call you when they want somebody? And Tom and Tyler. That's a good question. Tom and Tyler would talk about what is the person you need to be? What is the level of commitment that you need to have to make people think, I need a guitar player, what's Tyler's number? You know? And he learned from those guys, and he took it to heart and practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced. As is usually the case, and he will tell you, everybody down there is a good player. I mean, if they're going to stick their foot in that water, they got to bring something to the table. And so yes, it is. What is your networking like? Who do you know, and that kind of thing. That's the way the world acts. But you have to be able to bring something to the table, and he was fortunate enough to have those skills, and when he found himself in positions to audition and whatnot, came to the table loaded. Tyler's audition with Florida Georgia Line is an example of devotion. They were looking for an auxiliary guitar player to add to their sound. And Tyler had known them. In fact, he had when they were first starting long ago, was friends with them and was very good friends with their lead guitar player. And they were on a mini tour. He was with somebody else. But anyway, he knew them, and they were friends. And so everybody talking goes, well, you know, I wonder if Tyler would be interested. Well, he was required to audition, which, I mean, you know, it's like, yeah, he's my buddy. Bring him in to play. No, he doesn't know. What does he look like? What does he sound? I mean,
great, bring him in, but he's gonna audition.
Yeah, he's got to earn his spot, right? Yeah. So they sent him the CDs with the tracks that he was going to audition with. Rob, not only did he learn those, he got on YouTube and learned every guitar part to every song, both the live versions and the studio versions. He learned. They said these harmonies. He
him.
learned them all.
Good for
He
him.
was not going to go into that audition unprepared.
Yeah.
He had an experience. If he sees this, he'll kill me for telling the story. He had a situation in high school where he crashed and burned because it was like, I can handle that.
Yeah.
And he has learned it, thank God, and taken it to heart the rest of his professional life, and it has paid dues like crazy. So he goes into the audition, right? And he's expecting the band to be there. There's an amplifier, his guitar, and a pedal board, and a microphone, an iPod, and a video camera. The manager and the band leader, who was his buddy, were sitting out in his auditorium audience, and that's all that was there.
Yeah.
They flicked on that iPod and said, play. So he's like, Dad, I just played, did what I did. And you know, they're like, yeah, that's the guy. So, I mean, and, you know, and so as...
See, that's the stuff that we don't understand.
That's right.
That little moment in the audition where you're expecting one thing and they come out,
With
no. And that's getting back to what you said about these guys think they can do this, right? These underling guys think they can be this. And I mean, that's, deal with it.
You have no idea.
Go. Deal with, deal with this right now.
And you know, again, this is not a comment about the intelligence or the ability of the guys that I run into around here, those that think they could handle that. It's just simply a lack of knowledge in most cases as to what happens at that level.
Yeah.
When you are looking for somebody to go on the road with an artist that has just sold how many millions of copies of this thing on the road, who needs to present a certain image, who needs to act in a certain way. Everything that goes into that level, that goes well beyond your playing. One of his first auditions was with a group, and they wanted him to meet them at this office where they did songwriting. So Tyler went in, took his, said, just bring your acoustic guitar. Went in and sat down at this conference table with these guys, played for 10 minutes. And they went, okay, fine, let's go get a beer. And he said, down there again, in that, most of the people, the vast majority of people come to town, they have the chops that get them those auditions. And
right.
He said, they want to know more if you're a decent human being.
Yes,
Can they spend
I love that.
Can they spend 24 hours with you on a bus?
They don't need to hear. They don't need to hear us playing anymore.
No.
They've heard 2 seconds. They got it.
They knew who he was.
How's it going to be like?
How's he going to be out there on the road?
Yeah.
Now, that's not to say that the guys around here wouldn't be wonderful on the bus. That's not my comment.
Right.
That's not my point at all. My point is that is such a different world than we think it is. That there is a presumption that just because I can play halfway decently, and these guys they can play great, does not necessarily mean that you will be successful in this other world. He tells me stories about some of the greatest players he's ever heard will never work because people cannot stand to be around them.
Yeah.
And so some of those guys, they're stuck in their home studios doing demo work because people can't stand to be around them. I had we were at his a long time ago at a jam, and Tyler happened to be there. It's after he'd gone to Nashville, but he came back from the holidays or something. We were at this jam, and he played, and word got around there who he was and what he did for a living. And I had this guy come up to me, and he handed me his card. And he had played guitar, and he was advanced beginner at best. And but he had a good time, and it was fun. And he hands me his card, and he goes, hey, listen, give this to him. So anytime he can't make one of his gigs, that I'll be happy to come down and fill in. And I looked at him, and I took the card, and I said, I'll do that. Thanks a lot. And I walked away thinking, there's a disconnect here. And maybe it's because they saw him at a jam and just only what he did at that jam. I don't know. But there is in a lot of people's mind a big disconnect. Again, let me say that a number of the players that we see at jams have been at that level and understand that and that kind of thing. But those aren't the guys you hear say, I'm a professional, I can handle this. Because those are the guys that haven't been close to that yet and don't really understand what the differences are in those situations. And I don't put those guys down at all. It's simply a lack of knowledge and a lack of experience. and a presumption that it is as easy as it looks,
Mm-hmm.
and it isn't. It's not as easy as it looks. It isn't, and again, it has less to do with your ability to play or copy, if you will, because they're copying the studio stuff every day. And
I love what you were talking about with the idea of, because this is something that it would be, I've said this on about every one, is that that would be my general advice to younger players is we have to just spend our whole lives practicing and stuff with all the music stuff, and that is what it is. And there's 1,000 YouTube videos and 1,000 teachers, and it's not easy, but there's a lot of help for that.
That's right.
The thing that you were talking about is basically what they were interested in, and what your son was, the questions your son was asking was about business side and about like personality kind of,
personal people.
Yeah, why are they calling you? How are you? And he was probably watching a lot, seeing like how is this guy dressing today? What is his attitude in general when he's talking to his own band leader his marketing, his all that non-musical stuff. It fascinates me because none of us are trained in any of that.
They're not.
We're trained to play music beautifully,
right?
Especially in college,
And we were talking about knowing your role.
Yeah.
What is your role?
Yeah.
If you're not a personality that is content to be a sideman, or you want to be a sideman but you want your 15 minutes of fame every 90-minute show, that may not be. You may need to find the group that will allow you to do that, because most of them won't, unless you are the headliner. And so yes, it's all of those things that roll into there. What is the creative? Are you willing to compromise? Are you willing to do what your producer asks you to do, even though you may have your own ideas or whatever? Are you willing to be a professional at what you do, which goes far beyond equipment and far beyond abilities and that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's great, man. So we're kind of wrapping up here. Do you have? Everybody's usually really enamored with gig stories, because they're usually fun or not so hilarious at the time, But do you have a kind of moment in the music business or a gig that is just you'll never forget? Or whatever?
I do, and it comes back to confidence. One of the things that as musicians, if you're going to survive, even at jams, is you have to have enough confidence in yourself and your abilities to be able to withstand whatever criticism some other person might bring to you. This band I referenced before, Poker Face, who had played so many gigs out, we played a gig in a club in Pittsburgh, Kansas years and years and years ago. It was a Friday, Saturday, we were booked 2 nights. Went down there on Friday, set up, played our country set, people danced, it was great. But we noticed that during the breaks, the DJ got up and played heavy metal music, and he played rap music in what was supposed to be a country club. And so it kind of bothered and confused us. But we thought, well, the next night, same songs, same things, same country dancers, same issues at the set. Halfway through the gig, we're in the middle of a song, and the owner comes up to like this, shaking his hands, and goes, "That's it, you guys are done." Right in the middle of a song. We get fired. Never been fired in my life.
Wow.
Got fired. Had no idea why. Nobody said a word to us. Nobody had complained. It was exactly the same as it had been the night before. That was the owner. The manager of the club came, and we're packing up, and the crowd's going, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "Well, they fired us." "Why?" The manager came up and said, "Well, don't let it get to you. This guy can't figure out what he wants to do with this club, and he's having hard times and what this kind of stuff like that." Well, I'm not embarrassed to say that shook me to the core. It affected me for years. Years. Because, and again, it goes back to then piled on that club owner view, right? I do not know what was wrong with that situation, whatever, never will, and after all these years, it doesn't bother me not anymore at all. I'm always reminded of it, but it never bothers me. you have to deal with situations like that, knowing, asking yourself, did I do the best that I could? Did I do what I do the best that I could? And get to the point where you realize that maybe what happened to you was of no fault of yours at all.
Yeah.
It was, in that particular case, perhaps a club owner that was having a bad night.
Yeah.
Maybe they just foreclosed on his mortgage. Who knows what it was?
A little moody.
Yeah, a little moody.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we were supposed to stay overnight, and the other guitar player and I drove home, and I told him, I'm done. I said, I don't have anything else to give. And he made a good point. He said, yeah, you do. He says, we just need to find people that want it, that we can give it to. And I think that's an important point that he was making. Don't lose your confidence in yourself. Continue to practice. Continue to get better. Be true to yourself and be who you are. One of the things that Tyler's advice will give you if you talk to him about joining bands and whatnot is the worst thing you could do is have that band think they're hiring somebody that you're not. Meaning, if you go into an audition and you pretend like you're somebody that you're not, and they hire what they see, only for them to learn after that that's not really who you are, that's not good. Not good for you.
How's that work for dating?
There you go.
All right,
same story.
It's same
Exactly,
story.
it's exactly
You're
the same
you know,
thing.
you're putting on this huge
You're
front,
putting on this
and,
huge
and
front.
then 6 months later, they're like, oh, that's who you are.
That's who you really are.
Yeah.
But yeah, be confident in yourself. Don't be embarrassed if you have stuff that you need to learn. We all do. The best players in the world learn every time they walk out on stage with somebody. Every one of them do. You ask them, they will tell you that. It's constant learning. It's constant whatever in a devotion to a thing that you love so much. It's in your body, and you can't get away from it. It's an addiction. It's an absolute addiction.
Yeah, I mean, 2 things on that. Dave Chappelle always talks about that he went out, it was like his second time out, and he bombed as bad as anybody could bomb, and he said it was horrible, you know, I mean, it was just a horrible moment, but he said that was the best thing that's ever happened to him.
Motivates
you know, it motivates you, because he's like, he first of all was saying like, okay, there's no way that I can bomb any worse than that. It's not possible. So from here on out, you know, there's no reason to be afraid. It was his first thing. And second of all, that he learned a lot with that. And I love that. I think that probably you could ask him, but your son doing that audition, you were talking about that high school audition, you know, and
crashing
and burning, and then look what's happened now.
Look what happened less than 10 years later when he was auditioning
he was wise enough to have that and then many other things be part of his journey.
That's right.
And have that be actually I know a lot of people probably talk about this with like going to jail or something, or getting on the bottom with like drinking or something, and they're like, dude, going to jail was the best thing that ever happened. It went, you know, on myself.
The light clicked on. That's exactly right.
And I think that's a great thing. And then the other thing that you said that was interesting that maybe we'll finish with is the idea that I have this dilemma in myself a lot, and this goes well beyond music, of trying to analyze, was this situation my fault or their fault? And what I mean by that is that a lot of people in the world are always on the situation, it's always their fault. Like they're always, this is politics, this is dating, this is everything, you know, that they have the pride and they want to make sure that everything is always everybody else and I'm perfect. And then, but I think there's also a lot of people that, you were mentioning it when the guy fired you or whatever, that it's really easy to blame yourself for everything
if you're so inclined.
And I think that's really wise, because that's a personal responsibility attitude about the world, that what did I do 5 years ago that has set me on this path, and is this really everybody else's fault, or kind of a political thing, is it or do I have no money because of 1,000 little choices I made, you know? But knowing those moments and being really honest with yourself about this might be a night that really wasn't on me. But when your son came back and goes like, dude, I was not ready for this audition, this is on me, you know, and that's really tricky
It is
important thing.
But I think that again, that goes back to the confidence. One has to have enough confidence in himself to know that they have done everything they could do to prepare themselves for what they needed to do. If anything other than that happens, odds are it's an outside factor, unless you completely blew it and prepared for the wrong thing. You know, if that had been a heavy metal club and we had sold ourselves as being able to play heavy metal and went in and played country, that's on us.
Yeah.
All right, that's because we were fooling ourselves. But if on the other hand, we were a country band, they knew it, we went in and played country and their crowd loved us, and circumstances happened beyond our control that impacted us that way, then I've got to say, do I feel bad? Sure I do. I mean, God, nobody wants to get fired, and I never had been. And that was like, but in retrospect, I look back on it and I think, no, we did what we did.
Yeah.
We didn't misrepresent ourselves. We did what we did. And unfortunately, the way life happened that moment, we happened to get caught up in the hailstorm of it. And I think going back to some things we were talking about in terms of young musicians, I think young musicians need to get away from thinking in terms of good or bad, fault or no fault. They need to think in terms of everything's good, some is just better than others. And I want mine to be better than what it is.
That's a good piece of advice.
And so if I want to be better than I am, then here are the things that I need to do to be better. Because if we spend time trying to dissect who's at fault or right or wrong, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, because at some point we're going to conclude we're right. Therefore, we have no incentive to change anything or be better.
That's a good point.
So if you think about it in terms of, I'm not good at the jams. No, you are good. You are good at the jams. There are just guys or gals there that have more experience and knowledge than you do. Seek it out. Seek it out.
You can have that.
You can have that. Become better than you are now. Next time you're there, and the next time you'll be better. Never think of yourself as bad or worthless, or I hate the term beginner, intermediate, advanced. It's simply a factor of time and commitment is all it is. I mean, if all you want to do is spend enough time to be a good beginner, be a good beginner. You know, or be a good intermediate. Or if you want to be the best, spend the time being the best. But you choose. Don't let the world choose for you. You choose and you decide what you want to be and how much time and devotion you want to put to it. And when you do that, be comfortable in that decision. And stop comparing yourselves to other guys that you see that have been doing it for 55 years.
That was a problem I had when I was younger, is that I, as a conductor, when I was conducting, and I'm like, how come I'm like, dude, this guy's been doing it 30 years, calm down.
Yeah, calm down. You know, people look at Tyler, right? And I go, man, I wish I could do that. And then I and amateur golfers are this way. They go out and they go, why can't I hit shots like they do? Well, dude, because they hit 2,000 golf balls a day, 6 days a week. If you did that, you could do that. And the same with those super advanced players or the professionals.
That's the thing that they don't, the part of the cluelessness you were talking about, of not understanding why this guy's up on the stage and why I'm not.
That's right.
Because he can get musically, because we already talked about the business side, but musically, he can do that making like barely one mistake. And when you get up there, you make like 5 mistakes.
That's right.
And they talked about that on Bull Durham, right?
That's
The difference is one flare a week. I don't know if you saw that. It's from the pros to
250 to 300.
Yes, right.
1 flare a week.
1 flare a week.
That's
that's like one mistake.
Right.
Well, because of this guy's 10,000 scales he's done, he's not going to make that mistake.
He's not going to make that
very
mistake.
often at all.
And the creativity comes from that. You know, people say, is your son practice? Every day. Even when he's on the road. Every day. He picks up a guitar and spends some number of hours either creating or doing something with that instrument in his hand. It is part of who he is. And
I hate when people say they get lucky. That's BS.
No.
It has nothing to do
It's
with that.
nothing to do with luck.
Put in
It
some
has to
work.
do with being prepared when the opportunity is, you're presented with the opportunity. Are you ready to take the step? And those guys are ready to take the step. It's what they do for a living. If they're not ready, they don't eat or they don't work. That's the difference. And yeah, he plays guitar all the time when his daughter is sleeping. He puts on his headphones and plays through his system. When she's awake, she's in there in the studio, crawling around on the floor with Dad. You know?
we got a little musician in the works.
Oh
it sounds
man,
like
I'll tell you what.
daughter.
Oh, she does.
That's
She's
great.
fabulous. She's wonderful.
So last thing I'll say is that I
Yeah.
really liked what you were talking about of not worrying about things being your fault or their fault. And I like that you said that. I guess where I was coming from with that is that it gets me in trouble a lot when I don't internalize things and I always just push out.
Sure.
I guess is where my head
That's
was
right.
at with that.
That's right.
But also it can also help my self-esteem as well to not take everything
That's
and go,
right.
everything is
That's
my
right.
fault. So
That's right.
I guess that's where my head was in regards to worrying about things being their fault or your fault.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't look at it as being able to blame them, but I look at it as a self-esteem thing of not taking everything
Yes,
on.
exactly. And
know,
again, that
so-
goes back to the confidence factor. Have enough confidence in yourself to recognize that, number one, there are better players out there than me. I can still learn from them. The fact that I'm at a jam that's not going the way I want it to go, have confidence enough in myself to go, you know what, tonight's just my night to be in the background in the corner, and or whatever the case may be. But have confidence in who you are and what you have accomplished, recognizing what you want to accomplish or continue to accomplish, and deciding to put the effort into doing it. You will always, in every profession I would imagine, but certainly in this one, run into people who are better than you are. And I think that's great because I would hate to be the best because I'd have nowhere to go and nothing to learn from. And
Big fish in small pond.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I really like about the jams. It puts me in a position to play different roles all the time and teach myself to play different roles all the time and to accept different roles all of the time. Maybe tonight I'm just the downbeat rhythm player. And next week I'll be the featured lead player, or who knows. But it teaches you, I believe, if you approach it properly, and I try to, sometimes I get really frustrated, as we all do, but I try to say, okay, what's happening tonight, and what role do I need to play to make this the best it can be for everybody, including me, and go from there. And yeah, I think we need to. You know, it goes back to all of that confidence and leaving your egos at the door, as they say, and all of that, and that kind of thing. And it's hard to do. I mean, I'll be the first one to tell me there are times that I walk out of jams smoking, so mad I could spit nails because of the way that it went, or people's attitudes, or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, I'll never come back again.
Right.
But the next one rolls around. All right.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I'll get back again.
Yeah,
Just one last thing, if I might shout out to Steve Andrews and Steve McBride and John Hobbs, and a thank you to them for being so kind to me on Thursday nights. They are the Steve Andrew Trio, and they have been so gracious to let me kind of be the fourth member of the trio on Thursday nights, and it's been.
Their jam's going good, huh?
I think so. I mean, like in every jam, you know, you have up nights and down nights and all of that. You have good ones and bad ones. You have good crowds and bad crowds. But I tell you what, it's always they're all fun. Some are just more fun than others.
Every time I go in there, it looks full to me.
It is.
You know,
We have some good players.
Good players too. You know.
Good players come in, and that kind of thing. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I've enjoyed it tremendously. It's
great,
they've
man.
been really good to me.
So, last thing, mention your band again.
Blue Plate Special.
Blue Plate Special.
Blue
Yeah.
Plate Special, and check our Facebook page. I'm not on Facebook, but I'm told there's one out there with our schedule on it. And come see us. I'll be for the most part at the Firehouse with Steve and the guys on Thursdays every opportunity I have. And I know that some of our other guys are out at there's a jam at Dirty Harry's, I think, in Blue Springs, where Willie and Jim hang
Thursday,
out a lot
yeah.
Thursday nights, and that kind of thing. So yeah. And again, to the young musicians who might be watching this, going, I don't know if I could do that. You can do it. Just
You can
do it. Just get out and do it. And if you're at the Firehouse, come up and say hello. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. And if you want to tour the rig, I can do that, or play the guitars, or ask questions, whatever you need to.
People want to help you.
People want to help you. They are a very welcoming crowd. Very welcoming in all jams, really. So.
That's it. That's the show.
All right, dude.
Phil, thanks
it's
for
great to
thanks
talk
for-
to you.
Yeah.
Great to talk to you.
Again, another edition of KC Music Talk. We're out of here. See you next time.